Well, after my phone call to the Human Rights Commission of Australia, I was informed that I probably needed to call the Commonwealth Attorney General's office. If you haven't heard the phone call beforehand, the one that preceded this, by all means, check it out on my channel. It's named The Call to Human Rights Australia. Well, I telephoned the Attorney General's office, and I just noticed one thing about all of these calls. There was something similar with just about all of them. Firstly, exactly how much knowledge of current affairs do these government staffers really have? Most of them have never even heard of what's happening in the world. Do you think the Attorney General's Department would be the same? Do you think they'd keep up on the day's events? Do you think that it would even know what's happened in their world? Well, we're going to find out. The second thing I noticed is no matter how many times they put me through to what's supposed to be the right department I'm talking to, it's always the wrong department, and they're going to put me through to somebody else. That's something I noticed. Either that, or they put me through to an answering service, or give me an email to contact. Now, I just don't do that well with emails and responding to computer-generated voices. I like the human touch. I like to have a human being on the line so I can ask some simple questions to get some answers to those questions. The third thing I always notice is how quickly they always accuse me of being offensive, especially when they're caught out and unable to answer me. Some of these soft cocks in a cushy office job, they really just can't handle questions from Joe Public. And I guess that's what makes my calls so interesting. That all of these Johnny Softcocks really can't handle the truth. Listen in now as we give the Office of the Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Australia a very quick call.
Attorney General's Department, Jolene speaking.
Jolene, is it?
Yes.
Fantastic to have you on the line here. My name's Steve Johnson, hoping to speak to somebody there. Do you have a PR in your office, ma'am?
I'll put you through to the media area, sir. Just one moment.
Fantastic. Thank you, ma'am.
Good morning, Public Affairs Minister speaking.
Yes, and a very good morning. How are you, ma'am?
Good, how are you?
Fantastic. Just doing dandy. I was just wondering, have you heard the news today about the foreign minister in Israel having an arrest warrant issued for her in England?
I didn't catch your name, sorry. I might need to transfer you through to someone else.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, my name's Steve Johnson. Please do transfer me.
And where are you from, Steve?
I'm calling from home.
Hold on a moment. Steve, I'll transfer you through to Fiona.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Public Affairs. Fiona speaking.
And a very good afternoon, Miss Fiona. How are you, ma'am?
I'm fine, thank you.
Just dandy, fantastic. I was hoping you heard the news today, the fantastic news, that the Israeli foreign minister has had an arrest warrant issued for her due to war crimes with her role in the caste-led GAZA occupation earlier this year. Have you heard that, ma'am?
No, I'm unaware of that.
Okay. Well, my question to you, ma'am.
Okay, can I ask who I'm speaking?
Sure. My name is Steve Johnson, just calling up with a couple of questions. The first question I have is, do you think it's possible we could actually issue arrest warrants for the Australian ministers who were supporting Israel in that war crime?
Okay. What I need you to do, if you want... sorry, I've just come back from lunch. Just let me get my head together. If you're actually looking for a response to any questions, can I ask that you put that in writing to us formally so that we can actually go back to you with a response?
Well, that'd be fantastic, but I've got you on the line here, and I really don't want to waste down, another tree, cut down another tree, wasting paper, environment, and all that. Let's get green here, okay? So let's ask a few questions and get to the tough answers.
Excuse me, can I just say that if you could email the questions to us?
Well, I've tried that before, and my emails have always been ignored, so I'm trying the direct approach. The best thing is to have somebody on the line and get them to answer the questions right here and now.
Okay, I'm not a subject matter expert in relation...
Well, is there somebody there in your office that does have a knowledge about Australian law? I mean, I have called the Attorney General's Department, I hope.
Well, this is the Attorney General's Department.
Fantastic. Is there somebody there who has a clue about law?
But, okay, can you just actually allow me to speak, please? This is the Public Affairs branch, not a legal area. And if you actually would like a response to the questions you have, I actually need to get you to put them in writing. And if you can send them to publicaffairs@ag.gov.au, or more particularly, if you wanted to direct the inquiry directly to the Attorney's office, I can give you the email address.
Well, how am I supposed to do that, ma'am, if the Attorney General was actually supporting Israel at the time? That makes him complicit in that same war crime. So how's he going to investigate himself? Can you answer me that?
As I said, all I can ask is that
you can't answer me that? If somebody's involved in a crime...
Okay,
should they really be investigating themselves? Or do you think maybe the police should be involved? Maybe I should be calling the federal police about the minister's involvement with the caste-led Gaza genocide. That is a war crime, and complicity to a war crime is a very serious charge. I hope you're aware of that, ma'am. Even working for him, you could be held as complicit.
So you're saying I'm a war criminal?
I didn't say that. I said you're complicit if you were working for him at the time that this crime went down. And if that minister was actually supporting that genocide and that war crime.
All
It's
right.
already been issued in the UK. There is already an arrest warrant for an Israeli foreign minister for being involved in that genocide, in that crime. So every minister from Australia that was involved in that has now got the specter of war criminal hanging over their head.
Okay.
Yeah, it is okay. It's great, isn't it? I'm glad you feel that way.
All right. It's as simple as this. If you would like to put the inquiry in
It's
writing...
not that simple, okay? I've written how many times, and it's always been ignored. It seems to be the Australian government way to ignore the tough questions, hang up on the guy. Nothing to see here, folks. Move along. Let's whitewash the whole thing, and nothing to see here.
Okay, can you just give me 2 seconds? I'm not hanging up on you, but I am asking you that if you would like to put this in writing so that it can be addressed from a departmental perspective to...
Addressed by who? Who do I talk to about this?
Okay, if you want a response, you need to put something formally in writing to us so that we can actually...
No, who can investigate you guys? I mean, who do I call to investigate you guys being complicit in war crimes? Because I tried the Human Rights Commission. They gave me your number. You're going to give me somebody else's number and tell me that I need to write in. No, I don't think so.
Well,
So who do I actually call? Is it a waste of time calling ASIO or maybe the federal police?
to report us for war crimes.
Well, to find out if there's any evidence of complicity, yeah.
As I said, you'll be asked to put everything in writing so that it can be formally responded to.
Well, I'm just an average Joe. I shouldn't have to do this. You know, there are lawyers out there with a lot more experience in law than I have. It shouldn't be left up to the public to call these people out. You know, but is that the kind of Australia that you're festering here?
I beg your pardon?
Is that the kind of Australia that's happening here? That you're breeding these kinds of people who don't say anything? There's nothing to see here, folks. Go back and watch the football and drink your beer. You know, some people have ethics. Some people have morals. Some people have a heart. And some people stick by the law. And the law says if you do a war crime, you do the time.
Yeah. As I said, if you want these issues addressed, if you can put them in writing to us, and I have given you an email address so that you don't have to actually put anything formally on paper, it's entirely up to you.
Okay, can you tell me, was the minister actually supporting cast lead during the Gaza conflict in January?
As I said, if you want these questions answered, sir, you
Does that mean you don't know?
writing. I am not a subject matter expert on this, and as I have asked you before...
Do you have a subject matter expert in the office there? I mean, how many people are employed by your office anyway? A couple of hundred? Is there anybody in there that has a clue that I could talk to?
Okay, if you want to be abusive and offensive...
I'm not being abusive, ma'am. I'm just trying to get some facts.
Yelling now.
I'm not yelling. I'm trying to get some facts.
You're yelling now?
It's frustrating.
Yes.
It's very frustrating trying to talk to somebody who's been well-trained just to put people off and hang them up and say, oh, we need you to put it in writing. No, sorry. I don't do that. The last time I put it in writing, I got ignored. And the last time before that, I got ignored. So I'm not being ignored anymore, ma'am. I'm having my say. And that is what the Anzacs died for. The Australian legends about, fighting for our democracy and fighting for our right to say what we have to say, to stand up for oneself. And you deny me that?
I'm not denying you anything.
Fantastic. Then I'd like to talk to somebody, ma'am. I'd like to have my say as an Australian.
As I said, if you have a number of questions, you do need to put them in writing to the department, or you can direct the approach directly to the Attorney General's department.
Do you have that memorized pretty well? I mean, do you say that often? It sounds to me like you do. That's your answer to everything. Sorry, if you've got something to say, put it in writing and we'll get back to you.
Well,
Is that what they pay you for? You know, they can actually pay an answering machine to do that.
Okay, now you're being offensive.
No, that's not offensive. That's a fact.
Offensive. It is. It's actually an offensive personal criticism.
No, it's not, ma'am. It's an observation, okay? Learn to take a little bit of criticism. You working for the government, are you? Try dealing with the public a little bit more and you'll find a lot more of this. No, I don't care if you find that offensive, because really it's not. Back down to common earth, back in reality, ma'am, it is hard facts. And if you're offended by hard facts, that's your beefcake.
I'm not offended by hard facts.
Good. Well, fantastic. Welcome to the real world.
Okay, look, just hold on for a moment, sir.
Sure.
No, I want to put it through as a malicious call because it's getting quite abusive and quite offensive.
Well, right there is where I hung up from the office of the Attorney General. Indeed, she was calling security. She was having my call tracked and traced, calling me a malicious call. Now, I gotta ask you people, was I offensive and abusive? Was I yelling at her and being rude and obnoxious? Maybe I was a little forceful trying to get some answers. Yeah, I admit that. but definitely I kept calling her ma'am, and I was very patient with her, I thought. To say that I was abusive and malicious is making a false allegation. She's breaking the law herself right there. And thankfully, I recorded this call to make sure I had the evidence. And of course, every one of these phone calls has always got the recorded message at the start saying that this phone call may be recorded for training purposes. Well, that's about all for me for now. Catch my latest video when it comes out in a couple of days' time. You take care. Thanks very much for them. Don't forget to subscribe, rate the video, always put a comment, and of course, take care and God bless. Well, after my phone call to the Human Rights Commission of Australia, I was informed that I probably needed to call the Commonwealth Attorney General's office. If you haven't heard the phone call beforehand, the one that preceded this, by all means, check it out on my channel. It's named The Call to Human Rights Australia. Well, I telephoned the Attorney General's office, and I just noticed one thing about all of these calls. There was something similar with just about all of them. Firstly, exactly how much knowledge of current affairs do these government staffers really have? Most of them have never even heard of what's happening in the world. Do you think the Attorney General's Department would be the same? Do you think they'd keep up on the day's events? Do you think that it would even know what's happened in their world? Well, we're going to find out. The second thing I noticed is no matter how many times they put me through to what's supposed to be the right department I'm talking to, it's always the wrong department, and they're going to put me through to somebody else. That's something I noticed. Either that, or they put me through to an answering service, or give me an email to contact. Now, I just don't do that well with emails and responding to computer-generated voices. I like the human touch. I like to have a human being on the line so I can ask some simple questions to get some answers to those questions. The third thing I always notice is how quickly they always accuse me of being offensive, especially